Hey, everybody. Welcome out to another episode of Windshield Time at Mountainland Supply. I am Joey. I'm joined, as always, by Spencer Shorts. Spencer C. Shorts, as we found out.
You learned.
And I'm not saying the full thing. C.
Thank you.
Yeah, C.
Thank you.
8 good words.
I really appreciate that you didn't use that name.
Oh,
dude,
he's good.
He's gold.
He's really good. We're also joined here by Bryce Wheeler. What's your middle name, Bryce?
Robert.
BRW.
Yes, sir.
That is strong. That is strong, dude.
You bet.
Where's Robert come from?
My dad.
Okay.
Yep.
Your dad's still around?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
good.
Still
Good.
down in the big Richfield. So
Good.
Yep.
Does he live in Richfield proper? Or
Yeah.
Does he? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And how long does he live there?
Oh, they moved down there when I was like 2. So we almost ended up in Spanish Fork, believe it
Really?
or not. Then he took a job in Richfield. He had his choice between Richfield and Spanish Fork.
Really?
So
Where did he work?
Western Ag Credit. It was Farm Credit, and then it was PCA before that. So
Yeah, it used to be Farm Credit Bureau, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what it was when I was on
Yeah,
a farm.
so he was Farm Credit and then Western Ag Credit. So ag banking, that's what he did.
Dude, we used to have this thing when it was Farm Bureau. We had, or they would hold like a barbecue
Yeah.
at the end of summer.
Still do it.
Do they?
Yep.
The freaking best. Although I'm a weirdo, so I like A1 sauce.
Yeah.
So I'd sneak in a little vial of A1 sauce because you can't let them see that when they're slicing it, when they're throwing those steaks. They're like, that's sacrilege, you know. But they'd have that fresh corn on the cob and all. Oh,
Yeah, we would go. I
So
remember
good.
we'd jump in his company truck and we'd drive over to Green River and just fill the bed clear full of
corn.
corn and then cantaloupe and watermelon too.
Oh,
over
yeah.
there and just bring it back for all the barbecues across the states.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. Okay. Another connection we have.
Yes.
So speaking of connections, what brought you originally to Mountainland when you were, because you worked for a competitor in Richfield.
In Salt Lake.
Salt Lake,
yeah.
that has a branch in
Richfield. Yeah. So I started. So I started back in the industry in 2003, like September. Yeah, I want to say September. Same story as lots of people, you know. College, going to college, like, oh, this is a flexible job, you know. And
Oh yeah.
so anyway, you know, living up in Salt Lake, coming from a small town, you know, I mean, there's lots of factors, but I was fighting to get back home, you know.
Yeah,
and,
why wouldn't you?
And living in the city and stuff. So then it was just, with that previous employer, it was time to move on. We're just ready to go, you know. And
Yeah, they were built with a ceiling on how far you could go, right?
For sure. Yep. And so I'd reached that ceiling and it was just time to move on. And so it just happened.
Plus, you were far too talented
Oh, yeah.
to be lost in that abyss.
Right. But no, it was just time for a change. And I finally, you know, I think Mountainland was offering I think it was a counter and inside sales role at the time.
Yeah.
And I just happened to email him like, hey, I don't know if you guys have any management opportunities or anything down there, but here's my resume. Here's what I've done. And I think Haskell called me in like 2 days or something and said, let's meet. And so then we talked. And so, I was back in March of 2014 when I met with him. Then I met with Edwards after that. And they said, yeah, let's do this. And so I was originally hired down there as the assistant manager. And then
Yeah, that's right.
And then after it might have been almost a year. I think Ben knows for sure. I can't remember. I think it was about a year.
I got to rely on everybody else to keep track of time for me too. So
I think it was about a year, and then Brian Johnson ended up moving to outside sales, and then I took over the management role down there.
And you did that for how long?
3 years and some change. Yeah.
And then you made a move to Idaho.
Yep.
And this is pre-Mountainland being in Idaho.
Yes.
And did you go right to did you go to be a rep or did you go to the...
That was to the competition now, but before to Fowler there. But,
right.
And so that was another kind of weird deal that I absolutely loved Mountainland. And that was a hard time, crazy time. But, you know, not to get too out in left field or whatever, but, you know, you just get those feelings like there's somewhere else we need to be. And if you had asked me 10 years ago, if you had ever lived in Idaho Falls, I would have told you you're on drugs. You know?
I'd never even really been to Idaho Falls before we put a branch there. I mean, I'd driven through it on the way to Yellowstone and everything, but once you get up there, it is a really cool place.
It is.
It's beautiful.
It is. We'd been up through there a lot. Like my family used to go up through there to Yellowstone a lot growing up. And so we never spent a lot of time in Idaho Falls, but it was just one of those things where like no family, no nothing, just kind of rolling the dice, you know, and so it was hard to leave Mountainland, but in that same aspect, I don't know if you remember back when that happened, it was, as far as leaving the company, I couldn't have asked for more gracious, you know,
it worked out really well
with Mountainland and how it all went down. And you know, I remember talking to you and James and Ben a lot, and it just, you know, that conversation's like, hey, if you ever need a job, just let us know. And I'm just like, well, if you guys ever come to Idaho, let me know. Thinking, yeah, that's never going to happen. And it happens.
Yeah,
so,
and then it worked out.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how it all works out, but it's been good. So
it is interesting when things are meant to be. They're meant to be.
Yep.
So that kind of leads up to you coming back to Mountainland after your stint at a competitor up in Idaho and as a rep.
Yeah.
So after we opened up Pocatello, then we started looking at Nampa and Idaho Falls as expansion. And at that point, you were our first call.
Well, I appreciate that because it's, I mean, I don't want to talk, but it was funny. There was that time, you know, I was working for that competitor up there and I could just tell that wasn't a cultural fit for me either.
Yeah.
I just knew.
Yeah.
So I actually, for the 21 years I've been doing this, there was about a year that I snuck out and I was doing contracts out at the INL site out there for the Naval Nuclear Laboratory. So doing construction contracts and stuff like that. And funny thing was I had heard that Mountainland had moved to Pocatello, but I was actually doing contracts, and one of my service contracts was with Matt Edwards. When he was with Servco.
Yep.
And I had called him for an issue or something on a contract to do some amendment or something. And I'm like, hey, Matt, I've got this question. He's like, oh, well, just so you know, I
won't be here to answer that question.
I'm leaving. I'm going to, it's a company out of Utah that, you know, it's in Pocatello, and I'm going to be a salesman for him. I'm like, wait. I'm like, are you going to work for Mountainland? He's like, yes. How do you know Mountainland? How in the heck? I'm like, dude.
Long story.
You scored. I'm like, you scored. I'm like, that's going to be good for you. And he's like, really? I'm really nervous. I'm like, no, you hit a home run there. That's a good place to be. And I said,
and he's a good dude.
He is a good dude. He's a great dude. So anyway, I got there and then did the little rep thing for a few months when you guys called, and that was a hard one too because I just been with them not very long, but
months.
I knew what Mountainland was. I'm like, hey, I got to get back in here. So,
oh man, we're so glad you did. And so now what's your official title and your role in what you do?
So I am now the regional operations manager of Idaho, and still the branch manager of Idaho Falls. Yep.
So you're involved in all operational aspects of everything north of Utah.
Yes.
And some things that are in northern Utah because you have to cross over a little bit. Yeah, we'll
cross a little.
And how do you like that? It's
been fun. It's been challenging at times. It's been stressful at times. But it's been really fun. It's been, like I say, great mentorship, you know, and leadership that's been showing me like it's been fun. So great group of guys up there that I can, you know, work with.
So, you know, we talk about culture all the time. Culture's number one for us and every company, in my opinion. From somebody who was in the company, saw it from outside, and then came back, what was it that drew you back? Like, you know what I mean? Yeah.
So, like I say, when I left, it was hard. It was a hard decision because I did, even because that was back when we had just barely merged the two heating and the two plumbing. So there's stuff going on.
Lots of stuff happening.
And I had heard, you know, the whispers of the ESOP starting, you know, those talks going on. I'm like, man, this is going to be pretty sweet, you know? But then, you know, I moved, so I loved it. I did. It was great then, but, you know, Ben had called me when we were hiring and just had a good talk with him and just what was going on with the company and stuff like that. And just, you know, I always kept up on the posts, like, you know, Calvert's always posting stuff and watching LinkedIn, seeing all that's moving. I'm like, man, they are like
Stuff's happening
they're
over
going gangbusters, you know. It's and so, you know, I always knew it was a good field, but it wasn't till I actually came back and got hired to. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with it before, but just the change, the feel, I think just that ESOP just made a huge difference. I think.
Yeah, it did.
That give a dang, you know.
It did.
Attitude a little bit.
Yeah, when people are working for themselves, they take things a little bit seriously, or they do things a little bit differently, and everybody here is working for themselves and one another.
Yeah, and so that's, you know, that was one thing that really, as I started and was me and Kemp, you know, when he was on, he kind of told the story of us just setting up racking there, just me and him, and just going to town. And then it was just fun to be able to start fresh, you know, start a blank slate, you know, and hiring that. I mean, that's always hard, you know, you know,
man, you guys nailed it though.
Yeah. I got some great guys up there. Like it's been that's one thing that, you know, we've talked culture that my guys probably get sick of me saying, because I preach that so much. Cause
it's so important though.
It is. Because you've been in places, or I've been in places that where the culture was not strong, and it's hard. It's a hard thing to
it is.
Go to work every day.
It's the it factor, and there's no way to just like pinpoint it and say, okay, we flipped this switch and then it comes back.
Yeah.
You got to do all the right things the right way all the time, or you quickly is gone.
Yes.
And, you know, Mountainland's not always had the best culture, you know, through the years, you know, it's going through some slow economic times. And so it always hasn't been wine and roses.
Right,
you know,
right. Nope.
But I think we're on a pretty good plane right now. And I think everybody works really hard to maintain that. And it's not just, you know, one or two people.
No.
It's everybody working hard.
Yep.
Okay. So if you could talk to somebody who is just coming to Mountainland, and you could give them a word or two of advice, what would it be?
Well, and that's I kind of knew that question was going to happen, so I've been thinking about it, and it comes down to culture. So a new guy coming in, I would say, you know, buy into the culture, embrace the culture, and grow the culture. Like culture is so. I just like all my meetings. My guys just, I'm sure they just hate me because I'm like, oh, it is so important to me. Like having that, it makes everybody else happy. It makes you enjoy coming to work. It
makes the hard times easier and the good times better.
And when you have that good culture, you can have those crucial conversations, and it's not as big a deal, you know? It's just buying into that culture and building the culture. And again, creating that culture that's our Mountainland culture. You can create a culture that may not align with our Mountainland culture. Yeah. But we want it to align so we all grow and move in the same direction. And that's what I'd say, man, culture is just king to me. I will preach that till the day I die up there, you know.
Buy in and embrace it.
Yep.
I love it. And grow it. I love that. That's awesome.
So.
Thanks, bud.
Yeah.
It's been a long time coming. I've been trying to get you forever.
Stuff happens, huh?
It's okay. Well worth the wait, bud.
No, I appreciate it.
So thank you. Appreciate it. And thanks, everybody, for jumping in with us, and we'll see you down the road.